It's been a busy first 3 months for Bristol County Sheriff Paul Heroux as he continues to get acclimated to his new job. During an interview this week, the sheriff says he's already established a good working relationship with staff. An immediate priority, however, is filling 100 to 200 openings for correctional officers.
Low CO numbers is a problem all around, not just around the country, but it causes problems all over our organization. If you don't have enough correctional officers, you can't offer programming. If you don't have enough correctional officers, you can't open up certain housing units and spread inmates out. When you don't have a lot of COs, the people are getting forced to do overtime. And then when they're forced to do overtime, then they get kind of burnt out, and then they call in sick. And when they call in sick, that forces another person to come in to do overtime, and it creates a vicious cycle. So the lack of COs is really bad for programming. It's bad for morale for the COs. It causes more forced overtime, and so that's something that I'm trying to increase the number of people we're recruiting to come work here. That way we can address that morale problem.
There is an incentive program underway to recruit and retain correctional officers that includes a $5,000 signing bonus. Sheriff Heroux says replacing 25-year incumbent Sheriff Tom Hodgson has led to what he sees is a reluctance by some employees to embrace change.
I've said numerous times to people, if I don't change things, then I shouldn't have ever come here. What's the point of me ever leaving Attleboro as mayor? I should have probably just stayed in Attleboro if that's the case, if I don't try to change things here for the better. And so one of the things I'm finding though is I say, okay, well, here's an idea. It worked in all these other places. What do you guys think about it here? They say, no, that would never work because of these reasons. So one of the things I have to do is when I have those conversations is say, don't think about it like why it can't work here. Think about ways that you can make it work. Think of workarounds. Think about things that we can do that would help get around those obstacles that you see that exist here. And even some of the reasons people say, no, that could never work because of daycare issues, for example. Well, daycare issues happen everywhere, but other places make these ideas work. So, yeah, that's something that that's been a little bit of a challenge, addressing the culture.
The sheriff says interactions with inmates thus far have been respectful, and he aims to answer all of their questions. A search is underway for a director of inmate services who will coordinate all aspects of inmate relations.
Somebody who previously ran a hospital, or somebody who ran a CVNA, or maybe a group home of some sort, like a senior housing of some sort, where you have programs, medical, mental health, you've got food, you've got scheduling, you have all of these things all under one person. So that way what we can do is really have that person focusing on the inmate when they're coming in at time of admission, getting them started with programs, overseeing an operation, organizing it a lot differently so that it actually makes more sense for inmate flow from admission to release.
The sheriff has also been focused on making renovations and consolidations at the county's jails in Dartmouth and Ash Street in New Bedford. In Dartmouth, the sheriff says there are inadequate safety measures that need attention.
Most of our cells don't have locks on doors. And the reason for that is because they don't have toilets in cells. And there's a federal ruling that we can't lock doors unless there are toilets inside. So we have 7 housing units that I know of, that I can think of off the top of my head, that don't have locks on doors because they don't have toilets in cells. We have enough money in-house to do 3 of those housing units, and we're going to do that, and that'll make it a lot safer for the COs and for the inmates. Not having locks on doors is dangerous for the COs, and that sometimes they're short-staffed, and that's a problem. But it's also a danger for other inmates.
The sheriff earlier this year indicated he wants to examine shuttering the over a century-old Ash Street Jail in New Bedford. The campus in Dartmouth can handle the inmate influx, but not without infrastructure modifications, some of which could cost upwards of $10 million. The sheriff says the planned upgrades to securing cells in Dartmouth may provide an opportunity to centralize prison services.
Just last week, I asked the colonel, major, and classification director, I said, can you assume for a minute every cell in the jail has a lock on it. Every door has a lock. And assume that you have those toilets in the cells. Would we have enough availability, a space here, to bring everybody over? They said, absolutely, yeah. They took a couple days, but they came back. I said, now assume this. Assume that we are only going to lock 3 different locations, put locks on doors in 3 locations that don't have locks on them right now. Can we still close Ash Street? They said it would be tight, but yes, we could do that. I said, great, we have the money to put toilets in cells and locks on doors in those 3 housing locations. So it's possible that even without help from the legislature, financial help, I might be able to close Ash Street.
The sheriff will likely need financial support from the legislature, but for only around $350,000 to renovate space to transfer the regional lockup operation from New Bedford to Dartmouth. There are approximately 700 inmates housed at county jails. If outfitted and staffed fully, the Dartmouth facility can host 1,400 inmates.